having really great opportunity, and we're really glad that we have Dario Farcy here with us. Dario comes from Buenos Aires. He studied political sciences. He's a political activist. He's also a member of the workers' cooperative, graphic cooperative Proyecto Bar. He's a member of the directors board FEDECAPA, which is Federation of Self-Managed Cooperatives of Buenos Aires. He's also a member of the political party Democratic Socialist, and he was also a teacher, actually a professor, in one of the popular schools. You probably will mention what means the popular schools in Argentina.
Okay.
So yeah, that's more or less it, what I want to say. Dario will talk.
So, well, thank you, Nina, thank you, Milos, thank you, Nico, for giving me the possibility to be here. I don't know if this is, if we need that, because I think that is enough with my voice. Well, I want to say that I'm not so comfortable with this situation, to being here in front of you. I feel more comfortable in this round situation with everyone, with the possibility to see each other, but I will do my best, so please handle me with care. So, we have been talking with Nina and with Nico in order to bring you some kind of the overview of what is happening in Argentina. I don't know how much do you know about the situation, so maybe it would be better if I say something, if I go too fast or I go to places that you are like, I wanted to know this other part, you just raise your hand and say, Dario, please, we can go to the other part because there's something that is not so clear. Because, like you probably know, the history of struggles and the history of battle against neoliberalism and against the oppression in Argentina and, of course, in Latin America is very wide and it's very deep, and so it's not so easy to tell in 40 minutes or 30 minutes how is the situation now. But I think that we can start from the end. Like, we understand that the new situation or the new political environment in where our enterprises, our movements are being developed is a situation, a new kind of situation, a new kind of neoliberalism. And I think that is one of the most important aspect of how we are living now in Argentina. In 2015, we had a new government, and at the beginning we assumed that this government, this neoliberal government, was going to be the same as we know it, like the normal neoliberal government. But it wasn't. It's a new kind of neoliberal government. And in order to understand why it's a new kind of neoliberalism, I think we should talk about what was happening before this government. Argentina, as you probably know, has a very strong crisis in 2001. Yeah, only to put an example, our country entered in default. That is mean. Well, you know what it means. So at the same time, we had a rate of poverty of 40% to 45% of our population. We have more than 20% of unemployment. You have to think that in Argentina, historically, our percentage of unemployment, it was only about 3%, 4%, 2%, maybe 5 or 6, but talking about 20%, it was a huge thing for our society. Well, after different kind of battle, after the building up a lot of organization, a lot of kind of experiences like the Empresas Recuperasas, the recuperated enterprises, the social movement, the popular assemblies, the popular high schools, and all the process that have been very covered by the European society, started the process in 2003 that lasts until 2015, that we call it like this, the Kirchnerist government, no? Because the first government was Nestor Kirchner and the other two were Cristina Fernández de Kirchner. So mainly in order to go out of the crisis, this government applied a series of policies that tended to have a serious capitalism, yeah, like to have in order to develop in Argentina a kind of capitalism similar to Germany, to Great Britain, blah blah blah. That's I'm quoting there because that was the President Nestor Kirchner said in the first when he assumed the presidency. So one of the most important policy is like they establish a very competitive price of the peso related to the US American dollars in order to have more possibility to export products from Argentina to other places, mainly China and Europe, but also in other parts of Latin America. This was a very important policy because it did not only allow the products to go outside Argentina, but at the same time create like some kind of border or some kind of protection for the products produced in Argentina, because it was very expensive to buy things produced maybe in China, Africa, or Europe, because our peso was with a lower price. At the same time, like I said, one of the main arguments for doing that was to improve the exportation of our country, and mainly the products were raw material or commodities, soy, pine trees, and different kinds of commodities that our country produced. These products were the main factor to produce dollars and to have to preserve this relation between US American dollars and pesos. At the same time, they produce a new kind of international alliance in order to not to destroy, but not to go further in the alliance with the United States and the European Union, and to have a new alliances, commercial alliances, political alliances with the new emerging countries like South Africa, Brazil, China, Turkey, India. So the idea was to create not a contrapower, but to have a place in this multipolar world after the collapse of the Soviet Union. That was very important because in Argentina, most of our history is related with our connection with Europe and with the United States. So it was a huge deal. So have an alliance with Latin America and China, Russia, blah, blah, blah. So that is, I have to say that this process, it was based on the policy that is based on the extractivism. I don't know if you know what it means, that concept. Okay. So, and the monoculture, mainly soy, like I said. But at the same time, all the money, or most of the money that came from this extractivism went to pay the improvements of a lot of rights, social rights, that this government gave to the people, if you want. Like, they improved the salaries, They have new laws for communication in order to democratize the communication. They re-staticize companies that were privatized in the 90s, so they recover the most biggest company in Argentina. That's called YPF, that's the oil company. I don't know, Aerolíneas Argentinas is the main airline in Argentina. They bought this airline from the private owners. Yeah.
Yes, when you talk about raising the salaries, are you talking about raising the salaries for the whole economy, or are we talking about the public sector as a way to, establish political power with the administration?
That is a good question. Yeah, I'm talking about the whole employees of the country, because at the same time they approve a law in order to have conversation between the state, the owners of the enterprises, if you know, the bourgeoisie or the employers, and the employee, the unions. That was a tradition in Argentina that was raised in the 90s, and they brought it together to our legislation during the 2000s, the early 2000s. So the idea was to go against the inflation, and go against other factors that destroy the power of the salary of the workers. So the idea was to establish a kind of agreement in this table with the three sectors. So yes, the answer is they raise the salaries for the whole society. Yeah, we went from $200, like the average income for a worker, to almost $800. So our workers were very, very well paid in Argentina. Not at the end, but 2013, 2012. And these social rights also work for all the workers that were in the informal economy. The workers that didn't have a contract, didn't have the rights of a formal worker. The government created particular policies for them that was very important. Was for that moment was the biggest amount of money for that sector. I can go deeper in that, but I don't want to be so specific. So, what was another point that is very important is that the government of Kirchner had a very, very important rule that it wasn't forbidden to go to attack the mobilization, and it was forbidden for the public security forces to repress and to go against the demonstration, different kind of demonstration. Yeah, that was the rule, and they always said our policemen don't have the chance to go against the people. That was a rule, a very important rule. Of course, I'm not going to say that it wasn't any kind of repression during the government, but they were very focused, and they tried to do it all the time in the shadows, not directly in front of the cameras. And that is one of the important thing to say, because the new government that came to power in 2015 transformed this situation, and I will explain why. But this agreement that I told you between the owners, the workers, and the state started to crack because the prices of commodities and the prices of soy went down after 2012, 2013. So the state didn't have a possibility to raise money in order to have this agreement. So the elites from our country started to push push the government in order to have better condition to have their surplus, the surplus from the workers. So this in this point, 2015, the new government of Mauricio Macri came to power, and he changed, not at a structural level, our country, but he changed a few things that is important to see in order to understand. From the beginning, he has all the support from the United States, from the European Union, and also from the institution at the international level, like the World Bank, the Monetary Fund. And it's important to say that in these last 2 years, we had in Argentina a meeting of the G20 and a meeting of the World Trade Union. Trade. Well, okay, I don't know. Organization, not union. Sorry, organization. So it shows how much support they have. This government has. So at the same time, the Monetary Fund gave the biggest loan in the history of the Monetary Fund to Argentina. Not the biggest loan to Argentina, the biggest loan all over the world of the history of the Monetary Fund. We are talking about 70,000 millions US American dollars. So it's impossible for Argentina to pay back that. It's impossible. No. Lagarde, the director of the Monetary Fund, knows that. She says that. Our politicians say that. It's impossible to pay. So it was a way to support the things that this government wanted to apply before, of course, before the people knows that these policies were going to be applied. Mainly, I will give you some data. They freed all the regulation over the monetary market. So the money has freedom to flow, to go inside Argentina, to go abroad Argentina. No one is controlling how do you spend your money on what the big funds does with their money. So it's like freedom, totally freedom, so a big free market, perfect free market. So at the same time, they destroy all the prices control. So the food production is no any longer controlled. The public services, they have any control. So now the only rule is that they can fix their price to the US American dollar. So it's like we are paying like the same prices like a guy in Germany, in Berlin, or a guy in New York. But our salaries are half or maybe a quarter of one worker in Berlin. And at the same time, just put an example. In my house, I pay 1,600 more than 3 years ago for the electricity. Yeah, it's not wrong. It's not. I'm not translating wrong. It's 1,600. So it's like insane. So at the same time, this destroy the possibility to control the inflation. So now per year we have an inflation of 60%, 50%, 65%. At the same time, this situation, of course, increase unemployment, poverty. We went through in 3 years from having 16% of poverty to 32%. Unemployment went from 6% to 11%. So this is how it works, our economy now. At the same time, they decided to go against any kind of manifestation, any kind of mobilization against the policies. It's like every demonstration, any kind of struggle, it has an immediate action, an automatic reaction from the government, sending a lot of policemen. Even they try to put the army in our street. With our history from dictatorship, putting the army in the street is like a huge thing. So it was also a thing that they tried to do it. At the same time, since the G20, now the policemen can in demonstration, when they are in front of a demonstration, they can carry lethal weapons that wasn't forbidden before. So that is how it works. I want to say something more about the debt in Argentina. That from this loan from the monetary fund, 70% went away from Argentina, yeah, into private hands. Yeah, it's quite difficult to explain how it works, but only 30% kept in Argentina for infrastructure, for salaries, only 30%. But maybe we can talk later about that, but that is an important thing to know. Well, when I told you that it's a new kind of neoliberalism, I said that because this is a new neoliberalism that is based on the idea that the ones who has the power to control the state has to be technocrats. Yeah? Actually, it's the first time in our history that a right-wing party won the election. The first time. Yeah? The other right-wing governments in Argentina were part of coup d'etat and dictatorship. No one was elected. And at the same time, all of the ministers of this government and secretaries of this government are managers or are owners of companies. They are not politicians. Yeah? So this is a new way of neoliberalism. They are, like we said, now the business is ruled by their owners, not by their employees. Like when you go to a bakery and it's the owner there, something like that. So, and this new kind of neoliberalism has a project to transform Argentina in three main ways. Sorry. At the first time, they want to transform the state, and in order to do that, they have to destroy the work law. Argentina has a very strong work law with a lot of rights that are concealed by this law. So they want to change it. They also try to change the tax law in order to make it less progressive and in order to have more rights for the rich guys. And the other one, the third law that they approved in 2018 is the law, the pension law. It was a very, very strong battle, 1 week, almost 1 week, 5 days. With huge demonstration, with people in the streets fighting the police. You can search it. It was in December 2018. The images are like, we are talking about something between 500,000 and 1 million people in the street fighting the police. It's like mad. But after that they say, oh yeah, the situation is not good, but we are going to approve the law. So, but I will talk about this law later. The other type is they want to have a new agreement between work and capital. They want to reestablish this relation because for them the relation between the workers and the owners in Argentina is not competitive enough to go outside Argentina and compete with China. And they say openly, we have to have the same salaries that they have in Malaysia, they have in, I don't know, in Bangladesh. This is the future. That is the future. Yeah.
I want to ask something about the young people in this situation in Argentina because I can make a parallel with Skopje and Macedonia.
Mm-hmm.
We had a neoliberal conservative government also for the last 12 years, and that resulted with around 600,000 young people, which is confirmed by the World Bank, that went out of Macedonia in these 12 years. There's 600,000 young people in a country with 2 million. I'm interested in that perspective concerning Argentina.
Well, I would say one thing. In Argentina, it's not so easy to go outside Argentina because you can go to Uruguay, you can go to Bolivia, you can go to Chile, you can go to Brazil, you can go to Paraguay, and the situation there is not so good. So most of the young people with a little of capital, with a little of money, came to Europe, to Spain, to Italy, and you can see the data about that, and it's like historically Argentina has something around 500,000 of people outside Argentina. It was not so. We are not so a country that emigrate from Argentina. 500,000, 600,000. But in these last 2 or 3 years, more than 200,000 people went out of Argentina. But they are the people that had some money to go there. Most of the
in education, I suppose.
yeah, not of all of them, because maybe someone, but not all of them. But at the same time, a lot of people in Argentina went into the informal economy. That is the trend now. If you see the data, the government says, no. The unemployment didn't increase. We have more employees, but they put in their statistics the informal economy. So if you see, more than 500,000 young people went from the formal economy, with the contract, with all the rights of a worker, to an informal economy trying to survive. Maybe with these new platform economies, trying to find something. But it's not like we are emigrating, like a small part of young people, but most of them are trying to survive inside Argentina. So this is like that is important, because this new relation, it says that Argentina has so much workers, like formal workers. So we need a little more informal workers, entrepreneurs, like he says, like the president says. So they want to re-establish the relation between capital and land. The other part is repression and going against political activism. We call it one thing that is the school of Chocobar. Chocobar was a policeman that shot in the back a guy in the street, and very short history, but it's important. And the justice said that he was a criminal, he was a policeman, but he acted not like a policeman, but he needed to go to jail. And the president invited him to the Casa Rosada, the president's house, and rewarded him, because this is the way the new police of Argentina must behave. So this doctrine, this way of behave, is now openly affirmed by most of the ministers of our government, and basically they are killing people in the street. Like most of the people that are not white, educated, you can get killed in the street by a policeman. It's like very normal. So this is a new way of understanding how the relationship that we had with the security forces since the dictatorship. After the Kirchner government, the presidency, the police forces were restricted only to the security, to the normal behavior, not to going against population in this way. So this is a new way of understanding. The other way that I want to say is that the other thing is that Macri opened the door to a new kind of neoliberalism in the region, and if Bolsonaro is ruling Brazil, it's because Macri opened this possibility into Latin American society. Before that, no one would believe that it's possible for a fascist like Bolsonaro to rule Brazil. But they know that the situation is not so comfortable for them in order to make these changes. So they need to go very fast and do it now. That is why they are pushing so hard against social movements, against popular organization. So I want to talk a little bit about how our organization are dealing with this situation and which are the main problems. The main enemies for Macri's government, for the neoliberal government, are middle classes. I know that it sounds contradictory because most of the people that voted for Macri were middle classes, but all of his policies were against middle classes, against formal workers with contract, like small and medium enterprises, and against unions. Those are the enemies, the main enemies, where Macri put all their efforts in order to destroy their organization. There is other group of people that is very important. Like I said, 30% of our population work in the informal economy. That in terms of class struggle, they should be the enemies from Macri. But Macri and the Monetary Fund, they are not stupid. And they know that if they go against the people that have less, they are going to start a rebellion. So the solution is to give them a lot of money. Yeah, I know that I'm saying that it's quite strong, but the Monetary Fund, when they gave money to Macri, they say very clearly, this 10% of all of this debt must go to the popular economy and must go to the informal workers. Because in 2000, the ones that stood up against neoliberalism and went against that government were the informal workers. So the right-wing parties, the new right-wing parties, they have learned about our way of struggle. So they are having this, they are trying to reach consensus with this organization throughout money. Of course, it's not linear, it's not automatic. These organizations are getting stronger and stronger, and inside the government is a debate on how to deal with the situation. We can talk about that if you want, if you are interested in, we can talk about that. So, like I said, small and medium enterprises are between the main enemies of this government, because as I said, the idea is to be very competitive in the international economy, so the ones that are not so competitive must disappear. So it's very easy for them. So small and medium enterprises in Argentina must disappear. So, and there is the recuperated enterprises. So mainly the most important problems for the recuperated enterprises are the drop in national consumption, in national economy. Yeah, our national economy is being destroyed by these policies, so the people doesn't have money to buy things. So when you are focused on the national market, you don't sell anything. The other point is like the increasing of the public services, like water, gas, electricity. So with an increase of 2,000% and with a drop in the sales, well, you can imagine with the situation. At the same time, now we have to face the competition of China. For example, the recuperated enterprises that make clothes, they have to compete with Bangladesh and with China. At the same time, the inflation that destroys salaries, 60%. And, of course, political persecution and the police reaction against takeovers. And at the same time that the state destroyed all the programs, the public programs that gave money to the recuperated enterprises. So now there's any policy that is directed to recuperated enterprises or directed to cooperatives. Yeah? So all the policies, all the social policies of the governments is directed to this informal economy. Of course, we have bounds with this informal economy, but we are not exactly the same. So, and this is the last point. I don't know if I think, yeah, okay, I'm going to end very quickly. The idea is that this situation gave us the perspective that there is no alternative for us, like worker cooperatives and recuperated enterprises, self-managed movement, there's no perspective of future if we don't assume that this government is trying to destroy the country and our society as we understand and we understood like this last 10 or 20 years. And it's not only against our organization and only against our tradition, because recuperated enterprises has a strong union tradition. Most of the workers in the worker cooperatives and the recuperated enterprises were part of unions. Their families were part of the union. A lot of them were born in the hospital of the union, so they had this strong cultural link with the unions. Well, that is not enough. It's not enough to knock in the door of the union as we have been doing for the last 10 or 20 years. We have to go and to talk with different political actors in our society, because they are going against all the ones that understand that are workers. Yeah? If you understand your position in society as a worker, you are an enemy for this government and for this new kind of state. So, since we assume that, we started to make connection with this popular economy and informal economy. And as you can imagine, it's no easy task to talk with people and to talk with a group of people that has no connection with unions. Maybe they don't share the kind of culture that the workers, the unionized worker, has. So it's quite difficult to make that. Of course, in a Marxist way of thinking, it's not so difficult. It's like, well, we are all workers. We have to walk, and to talk with them is very easy. But tradition and culture is quite difficult. At the same time, most of these informal workers are migrants, and most of the workers in the recuperated enterprises, they are not workers. They are not migrants. Yeah. So, yeah, if you took the whole history of their families, they are migrants, but they don't feel that they are migrants. So we have different kind of backgrounds, and we are trying to make this new alliance. So this new alliance with those sectors is mainly based in this idea. They have a very strong organization. Because they receive a lot of money during these years, they had the possibility to build up a very strong structure, a very strong organizations, but at the same time they are present in all over the territory, all over the Argentinian territory. They are present. They have a huge, a massive possibility to mobilize, to give answer to the problems of the territories, like building houses, problems with electricity. They have a strong position in every neighborhood, in every territory. On the other hand, we had the experience of being involved in industries and involved in this, as we call it, we have been working in developing some kind of different type of industries and services, and the informal economy, it doesn't have so much technology and this tradition of working with the traditional industries. So we are trying to prepare some kind of position, some kind of proposal for the government and for all public institutions in order to have some kind of key element for the next government. Trying to say, okay, if you want to save Argentina, you want to save this process, to rebuild Argentina, you have to assume that we have a role to play here, and we have these 10, 20 points. Yeah. So maybe it's not so important, but for us, it was very, very important in order to expand our horizon and to expand our alliances with this sector, and in order to have more muscle to confront neoliberalism. And if there is something good that neoliberalism has, is that puts all the popular sectors together. Yeah? So we are not seeing the things that we don't have in common, but we are trying to focus in the things that we have in common. And one thing is going against this project of society that Cambiemos has. And for us, that is not such, it's not so easy to achieve that. We have been working in that for maybe 15 years, and only now we are seeing the results of this behavior. So this policy. So I wanted to share that the situation is quite difficult, that we have right now in front of us a strategical election, but at the same time we have a strategical moment for our country. We are at the gates of a massive crisis. We are at the gate of a massive destruction of capital, and capital, like Marx says, it includes people and also machinery. So we are at the gates of that. So we have to put all our effort in order to avoid that situation. The next government, if we achieve to take out Macri from the government, that won't resolve our problem. But it could be the beginning, of a new project. And I want to say one last thing. Most of the countries in Latin America, and in the case of Brazil, the new liberal government took power after a great defeat of the popular classes. If you remember the government of Dilma, she applied most of the neoliberal agenda from the World Bank and the Monetary Fund. But that didn't happen in Argentina. This neoliberal government is trying to defeat our popular movements right now, and they are going to go even further in the next government. So that is why it's strategical, because we didn't have this defeat, but if we don't do anything, we are going to have it.
Thank you very much. You gave really more detailed overview of what has been recently going on in Argentina. We also had the opportunity to listen a year and a half ago. We listened Andres Ruggeri, professor from the University of Buenos Aires. He was talking more focused on Fábricas Recuperadas and their position within the Macri's regime. So I'm really glad that you provided us with more macroeconomical setting and how it changed from Kirchner's period to nowadays, and actually why the alliances today are different, and why they need to be different, why they need to be different from the crisis that happened in 2001. So yeah, thanks for that. And I would like to open the floor for questions and comments. So please.
Is this explanation that you said that they are like new neoliberalism, that basically they don't care for that basically that they care just for economy and expanding the business, and anyone who is opposing that they are the enemy, but they are not care for like usual they don't care for usual right-wing things or parts of politics like identity politics, or they care. Why they are new?
Yeah, I think that I will respond each question, and I don't know if it's okay.
As you wish.
I think it's easier. It's easier.
Take one more so you can.
Okay.
Answer.
Yeah, I would like to go back to what you said at the beginning. You said like, okay, Macri was like an opener for like the whole right-wing process in Latin America, and also by what he provided the information. So he like his electoral base was like the middle classes, and then he went against the middle classes, which is something that is a difference to the neoliberalism in the 90s in Latin America, where we can say like the right wing doesn't have like a project that gives like any, not even hope, not any solution, but not even hope to the people it pretends to represent or to give the base. So the question is, the elections won't solve the problem, but what is the expectation, or maybe the possibilities that it at least turns around the wheel in Argentina and maybe also in the whole of Latin America, I would think.
Okay, maybe I will answer the two because they're very wide and I want to be very focused. I think that when I say that it's a new kind of neoliberalism, I'm talking about hope. I'm talking about hope for a lot of people that in the 90s they bought, well, maybe they bought or they have believed that these new governments they were there for bringing rights for the minorities, maybe some kind of gender policies. They were like they were there to bring the modern state. This new kind of neoliberalism, they're not modern. There's not like we are bringing the future into these countries. There is no possibility in this new right-wing, this neoliberal policies or government to bring any kind of hope to the people. That is why, and that is very important. In the 90s, this government told us that we are going to have the possibility to buy anything. We are going to have the possibility to travel anywhere. Well, it doesn't exist anymore. So they replace this anxiety for consume with a thing that is quite strange, with the church, with the evangelical church. Most of the new right-wing parties had a strong connection with evangelical church. So what does it mean? That now neoliberalism is quasi-medieval, yeah? Because they don't have any hope to bring, yeah? It's
After you die.
Yeah, after you die, maybe you will find something good, but not now. And you have to assume, yeah, it's your position in life. And it brings us to the position that this new neoliberalism is quite similar to the original neoliberalism. The one from Pinochet, the one from Margaret Thatcher, the one from Reagan. Yeah? So, like everything that is new, it has connection with the past. So, and I wanted to say something about what you said. The thing is, when Macri came to power, we debated, we had this discussion about, well, they are trying to create a new neoliberal hegemonic. And in that moment, it wasn't clear for us. But when the government started to walk their path, they tried to impose their hegemony, yeah, trying to say we have a project for these societies. But their allies, the big funds, international funds, the landowners of Argentina, the public services companies, because they are privatized, they push the limit so hard that they destroy the possibility of having a project of country. It was This is our chance to take all what is left of Argentina. We need it. And because they are mad? No, because right now, in this, in the international market, it's not so much place. Yeah? With the free market, with free borders, there is no possibility for the companies in Argentina to exist. So they don't have so much time. So they needed to make it faster, even destroying their government. Yeah? So in the government, you have like two sides, two wings. The wings of the economical group, the ones that say we have to do everything that the companies want to do, and the other one that say, okay, we agree with that, but we have to slow it down because we are not going to win the next election. Well, the second one, the peaceful one, yeah, lost the battle. And now the government is only based, it hangs from the money from the monetary fund. There is no hegemonic possibility for this government or for the neoliberal governments in Argentina, in Latin America, I think. And that brings me to the other thing that you said. The situation, and we must assume this condition, is that we are facing a new type of right-wing feeling within society, not only in the government. A lot of people in our countries are willing to lose some of their rights in order to see other loses their rights. Yeah, like something similar here with the lower income workers against the migrant. It's like, maybe it doesn't have anything to say with me, but I want them to be out. This is very similar. So I think that now in Argentina and Latin America, in Brazil too, we have 20%, 25% of the population that has expressed his right-wing feeling, and that is a result not only from these last 10 years, but mostly these people are the ones that have been teenagers and young people during the 90s. Yeah? If you see the statistic about who voted for Macri, most of the people from in their 40s and 60s, they voted for Macri. So they are the sons of the dictatorship, and they lived as young men and women the 90s. So we from the left has to assume that that people is there, and they have very strong right-wing feelings and very right-wing proposal. So maybe this government hasn't had the possibility to impose their project, but it's going to be another one. There's going to be another one, maybe not worse, but maybe another one. So I think that now the challenge that we have is to defeat their project in order to say, you see, it's impossible for a right-wing government to rule Argentina, to rule Brazil. Yeah? And in Venezuela, that battle has been fighting. Yeah? In Venezuela is the main point. That is why Trump is so nervous about Venezuela, because he knows that there is not so much time for the right-wing parties. It's going to be over. But at the same time, we need to see that it's not enough with raising salaries. It's not enough. It's not enough with giving some kind of rights in order to improve the economical life of people. We have to go in order to develop our societies, and that means to transform our structure. Yeah, and that is why the next government is not going to fulfill our needs. Yeah, the next government, even if it's a popular government, is not going to fulfill that, because they are not thinking about transform our economical structure. But we must face it, and we have to build alternative project, based not in what we believe is the best. We have to base it in what we can achieve with those that are suffering the result of this crisis and this model. And I'm going to tell you something. Why I didn't speak about recuperated enterprises. Because when we started working with recuperated enterprises, and I have been through a few recuperation processes, we had this idea that with the example of these workers and with the example of the good alternative, the example of the good economy, the example of the clean, perfect, beautiful examples, it would be enough to destroy the system. And it's not enough to destroy the system. I know, I say that and you say, of course, it's not enough. But when you are in the territories dealing with this situation all the time, it's now to say that things. It's in the middle of the crisis that we fight. We have to say that it's not enough. That it's not enough with 400 recuperated enterprises. It is not enough with left union. We have to make a broader alliance in order to destroy the system. And I really think that it won't be only with our beautiful speeches and with our perfect life, buying only bio food. It would be with the people even that we don't like so much. And even, I think, it will be with some part of the society that now has right-wing feelings.
Yes, one question that is in line with Dražan's question about related to politics and all this matter. Since I am an LGBTI activist for some while and a women's rights activist, I wanted to ask, first, it's like for me and I think that our job and our task is to rethink class now. And a big part of this is what you said about the going back from secularization in Argentina, through the church coming back and taking power. How is the government treating LGBTI people? How is the LGBTI community responding? Is it included in these unions, or is it just liberal feminism doing its thing?
Well, okay, I will try. I'm not going to be able to respond to answer, mainly because of two things. Mainly because I am a man, a white man, so maybe you should ask a compañera from the movement. But I can give you numbers and contact, and you can ask everything. But and it's not because I don't know, but I don't feel comfortable talking for them. And I think that, but I could say one thing. At the beginning, the government tried to have these pink wash policies, but that ended when the feminist movement started to ask again for the abortion law. Yeah, in Argentina, the abortion is forbidden. Yeah, you are going to jail if you make an abortion. Both the mother and the doctors that make it. So in 2018, it was a huge struggle for this law, and the law passed through deputies, but in the Senate, because we have two chambers, in the Senate they refused the law, but it was a huge thing. And now in Argentina, and the government had a strong position in favor of the churches, yeah, both Catholic and evangelical churches, and they were together. The government tried to say no, we are like in the middle, we are neutral, but they gave all the possibilities to the churches. So that ended this possibility for the government to present to the society like a progressive movement in the government in this area. So just put an example. The first, you know, the movement Ni Una Menos. No, the first mobilization for the Ni Una Menos. There was more than 1.5 million people in the streets. So it was totally huge. And then the new generation of young activists, most of the women, are related to that. They are coming to politics throughout the feminist movement.
So
No,
you would say to revitalize the movement, this abortion law and everything that happened.
totally. The two biggest moments from the last 4 years are the popular economy, as I said, and the feminist movement. Totally. And I think it's the biggest in the world. So I invite you to see and to research about the movement because it's amazing, really. And at the same time, I would say, in my personal experience, that this feminist movement has changed the way we understand politics, the way we related with our comrades in our meetings, in our assemblies, in the whole life, in my family, in the,
Rethinking class.
huh?
Rethinking class.
Totally. So I think that is I could only give you some part of the history, but it's like very huge, and most of the anti-neoliberal movement, the stronger part, is based on this feminist movement. And I would say one more thing. The idea of the feminist economy about thinking about life and not thinking economy about death, like the capitalism, is very strong to fight against the G20, the neoliberalism. So I think that there is a core thing in the resistance against the government.
I have two questions. First one would be, maybe you already talked about it, but I had to go out for a moment, so I apologize in advance. But what I'm interested in, and what you already stated, that usually in Latin America you needed a coup d'etat to put right-wingers in power, and here obviously didn't happen. So my first question would be, if you could, I don't know, summarize maybe, or put a couple of I don't know, conditions, or maybe policies, or I don't know, mistakes that the, I don't know, left centrist or the Kirchner government made before, and that paved, let's say, paved the way for these right wingers for this big electoral success. That would be the first question. And the second would be, so you said you're trying to build these broader alliances, and maybe also with people, or not maybe, you said, also with people who, I don't know, have some kind of right-wing sentiment, and not even this centrist or left centrist or something like that. And so I would be interested in if you could tell us maybe something more about some concrete example of some, I don't know, let's say successful alliance that you already made, and let's say maybe the biggest challenges that you had or still have in that process. That would be all.
Okay. Well, I would say that most of our history, after the Second World War, it was basically, most of our history is based on the idea that the Peronist party, the Peronist movement, ruled the politics. All the time that the right wing wanted to go to an election, they already knew from the beginning that they are going to lose against the Peronist party. That is why all the right wings supported coup d'etat in order to access to power. And every time that the right-wing parties or the right-wing politics take control over the state, they brought the Peronist party in order to control the situation. In order to, we made a lot of mistake, bring that Peronist in order to pacify the masses. Yeah, that is like how it worked, or how it worked before that, before this situation, the actual situation. I think one of the biggest mistake that the government of the Kirchner made was seeing our development as a society only based in the idea of consuming different kind of goods, the different kind of products. Yeah. So every time that Cristina talked in front of the people, she always talked about, I don't know, this month we sold more, I don't know, more refrigerator than the last month. We sell more cars, and that was the rate of progress of her government. And I think in that point, if you were in touch with this government, and you were not so politicized, it would be very simple to think that the next step in your career, in your life, is to vote this right-wing company owner, because he's saying to you that you are going to be able to buy more products, because that was the speech from Macri. No, I'm not going to destroy that. We are going to open our borders, and now you are going to be able to buy iPhones from China. You are going to be able to buy clothes in Miami. You are going to be able to buy dollars, like millions of dollars. And that was the speech. And I think that was a mistake that the former government made. But at the same time, I think that the Peronist party, Nestor and Cristina, they re-institutionalize our politics, because they were brought to the government in order to do that. The companies and the state and the power, the elites in our society accept the Kirchner government in order to reorganize the society. Because after 2001, all the people were in the street, they are fighting against the police, fighting against the state. It was like almost an anarchic situation. So the companies say, if we want to make some money again, we need some kind of agreement with these people that is crazy. So they brought the Kirchner government, and the Kirchner government made our institution and our party stronger. So when they faced this crisis, and the owners of Argentina said, we don't want this agreement anymore, because the house is in order, so we don't need you anymore. She didn't have the possibility to ask the masses to defend herself, because the masses weren't there. Yeah, they supported her, but all the solution must come from the election, must come from the institution. And this is very, very important. Because when Cristina, I think that another mistake is, well, let me finish with that. This is very important because this kind of government pacified the social movement. Yes, it made the social movement stronger, but at the same time, she created a huge connection with this movements between the state and the movement. So they lost the possibility to react in front of a neoliberal government, and the neoliberal government knew that it was possible to win the election, that no one is going to be in opposition to them. Yeah, you know, all the political table accepted that the solution is through the elections, not in the streets, not in the unions, in the elections. And another mistake that I think that they made is that it wasn't a mistake. At the end of her mandate, the coalition, the alliance within the Peronist Party, or the alliance in the Kirchner and the Kirchner movement, Kirchnerismo, didn't have a true new leadership. It wasn't there. She is the only leader of this movement. And she didn't want to transform the constitution, because in Argentina it's only one re-election, so she has a mandate, he has the second one, so she has to end his mandate, and she didn't have the possibility to go to a new one. So, but she made the decision not to create a new leader, so it was over. The two candidates, Scioli and Macri, were both neoliberal. So I think that in that point, it wasn't a thing about a mistake. I think that it was all the political organization, parties, everyone accepted that the next government would be neoliberal, and we are going to decide our fate in the election through the institution. So it wasn't a mistake in that moment. It was the natural evolution of the decision that she has made in the last 3 years of her mandate. That is quite complex, because I should explain more about the political environment in Argentina, but maybe we can do later. But I want to say something about the second question that you asked. Is that I think that a good example of that is the right-wing feelings. They are not outside our movement. They are not outside our organization. Most of I went to a cooperative, I'm not going to say the name, and we were eating lunch, and at some point we were in a table with maybe 10 people, and we were talking about the election that was at the beginning of 2015, and 6 members of the cooperative have accepted that they will vote for Macri. 6 from a worker cooperative, a recuperated company. And we argue and we discuss, but probably they voted for Macri, because they were very clear. Now I have a house, I have an auto, and a car, so I want to have more things. And he's telling me that he's going to put again Argentina in the world, so we are going to be like Germany, like the United States. So, and I can put you another example. Right now, those who had those feelings, now they are saying that they are going to vote for Cristina. Yeah, for the Kirchner, for another round of Cristina. So I think that shows that before the election in 2015, we didn't make a good job talking and debating with these guys. But we did it in these last 2 or 3 years, because we were frightened. We didn't believe the amount of how this government destroy our society. So we started to go to talking about politics everywhere, and we managed to improve the situation. That is, maybe to put 2 examples of. I was talking with the leader of a favela, like we call it villas, the favelas in Argentina. We were talking 2 weeks ago. He is very left-wing with the Trotskyist tradition, and I asked him, where are going to your movement? What is going to say in the election? And he said, well, we didn't make a decision, but it's quite obvious. All of our members are going to vote for Cristina. It's like, there is no debate about that. So and it's very, very comic, because very, very funny, because all the people say, yeah, because maybe I don't like Cristina, but when she was the president, I could eat a grill and asado barbecue on the Sunday. So that is why I'm going to vote for her. So maybe we can defeat neoliberalism now, but it doesn't solve the problem, because the problem is not to eat barbecue on Sunday. The problem, it goes deeper. So that shows how I can put another example if you want, but there's very good example of people that they are not politicized, they are not social activists, they are people from the lower classes, and we have to talk with them. We have to reach them in a way that we accept their way of seeing politics, and we speak a language that they with the one they can debate, not a one that they can understand, but the way that we can debate. Okay, you have this feeling, okay, let's talk about. Of course, it's more interesting coming here, even a speech is more important, but this kind of political work is the one that we have to make, and it's very cruel, because 1 year later, no one is going to remember you that you were talking with your neighbor. Yeah, it's very cruel, but we must do it. If we want to win, we must do it. Yeah.
Like, just to comment something on what you asked, and like generalize it a bit more, like in Latin America.
Yeah.
Which I think like this like responding to a certain consumerism model and to broadening social rights was something that all these leftist governments did, like all over Latin America when they got into power. But don't forget that the crisis came. So the commodity prices went down. The only chance that most of these governments saw to continue to satisfy these material needs was to deepen the extractivist model all over Latin America. The only government, and then the other thing is, I think they believed, most of them believed that the right would respect the liberal democratic supposed rules of the game. And they did not, like we saw in Brazil, like we saw everywhere, they did not, they didn't care. So like the only government that did not demobilize the social movements was Venezuela. All others demobilized the social movements. When Dilma was taken out of office, there was no one there to do anything, because since Lula, all the social movements had been demobilized. And then there's one more thing that like plays into that, is that all these governments gave more access to people to education. So a lot of people became some kind of, like at least cultural and in part also material middle classes. The moment the economy goes down, they have expectations that they could achieve something better in a neoliberal system or in a capitalist system, because they improved their education, their social status, or whatever. So it was like several elements playing together and creating the disaster that is there now. And then also, don't forget that, I mean, several governments were taken out, like Paraguay, Honduras, etc., by more or less coups. So, but at the same time, I think in all this disaster, we should not forget that it's, like if we look at Latin American history, there's never been any phase where like progressive governments were like so massive and so long in time without having been taken out by a coup. I mean, Venezuela existed now 20 years. That never happened before, never. I mean, you can have a lot of critiques on Venezuela, and I share a lot of things, I lived there a long time, but like that it even lasted that long, and that there were other governments they cooperated with, and etc., that hasn't happened before, like in like hundreds of years.
Yeah, since our independence, our revolutionary process in the beginning of the 18th century. I want to add, I totally agree with you, I want to add that one there is no coming back. It's impossible for our society to come back to the situation that we had before this progressive movement. And the right-wing parties know it, because you see all over Latin America, the right-wing parties, they don't have any project. The only country that has a project of the neoliberalism is Chile. The other ones, even Colombia, they are ruling for 60 years and they don't have a project on how to fulfill some kind of need.
Well, you killed them.
Yeah, because they kill them, yeah, naturally. But, and the thing that is an important thing that I would like to highlight is that, and I think that is one mistake that Macri did and the government of Cambiemos, that is how the alliance is called, is in Argentina, after 2001, politics are one of the most important things in our society. And one of the things that no one can avoid is to see that through politics, the answer to our society is through politics. And Macri, with this speech about economy, the companies, like it's going to be a rain of dollars, blah. Some part of the society bought that, but most of the society in Argentina, I think, is in the same in other countries in Latin America, like in Bolivia and Venezuela, and in Uruguay. The people want political responses. Yeah, of course, they want to improve their material life, totally, but they want political answers to their problems. And I think now, when you see the news in Argentina, that is quite clear. Most of the TV channels talk about politics all the time. We have channels not 24 hours, but maybe 12 hours a day talking about politics. Right, left, but talking about politics. And that is one of the biggest changes that the progressive movements brought to Latin America. That politics is the only way to organize society.
Yeah, and talking about this, it was really interesting. Yesterday I saw a statistic that was about media literacy in Europe, and North Macedonia, of course, is the last one with the least points. I want to talk about this connection about neoliberal right-wing policies, short-term right-wing politics, then would I say, amplified by media, because we are living now in the fake news era. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to ask if media literacy in Argentina plays a role in this, the right-wingers now staying in power still.
Well, I would say that, of course, it plays a major role, very important role, because one of the most important advisors from Macri is a man called Durán Barba. Durán Barba is a political scientist from Ecuador, and his expertise are mainly based on the idea that we can win an election making fake news. That's direct. It's like open. There is a lot of book, and I would say that it's quite good doing that, because Cambiemos, this alliance, the only good thing that they have done is win election, because they are good at that. And this Durán Barba is very, very smart, and it's not only fake news. It's also coming to agreement with the biggest mass media industry in order to have, actually, if you turn on the TV in Argentina, 90% of the channels are in favor of the government. 90%.
So would you say there is free media in Argentina?
What?
Would you say
No,
there is free media?
right now no. No, with this government, no. It's in the, maybe you have like alternative newspaper, yeah, you can find it, but in the TV and the main channels, no, it's always in favor of the government. But at the same time, I would say that there are fake news, totally, but at the same time, there is a policy very clear in order to convince people through this kind of, I would say, I wouldn't say easy answer, but this thing that these new right-wing governments in Latin America are more like actors than politicians. It's all well planned. All the speeches are written. It's very no, this color it doesn't work here. It's like they produce a movie, like a theater of politics, and that is very, very important, because when you see that, it's like the t-shirt that they use, the shoes that they use, and it was very funny. I will tell you something. The man, but it's not always through media. It's always between people, because we had the guy. I won't say the name because the guy we has the power to be related with the social movement, and he has an office in the south part of Buenos Aires, and that office is an old factory that produced, I think there was a chocolate factory, very old, but mid 18th century, and they bought that factory because it was abandoned, and they produced like a very kind of Hamburg structure, and they put it very beautiful. They spent like a lot of millions there, and they have an office there with like Google. Like when you go inside, it's like ping pong, people having a coffee, so everyone with their iPads, their iPhones, okay. So, and he has an office in a green, the roof is a green roof, of course, and he has an office there, and all the social movement, the people like dressed like they are from the neighborhood, very low income people come together. And he started talking in a language that, it's like Spanish, but it's a slang that is called lunfardo. And he started talking in lunfardo with them. It's like a very, very high-class man talking. And he says, sorry, I could take out my shoes because I feel more comfortable. And he is like very open-minded, you want a mate. This thing about the mate is like the high classes, they don't drink mate. So it's like, you want a mate? So they are like progressive hipster, if you want to say it in European terms. They are very hipster. So, and no one was seeing that. It wasn't filmed there, but it's a way of communication. Like I said, they are a new kind of neoliberalism. They transform the way of communication, of how they communicate with people. All the time. All the time they are planning how they are going to behave. All the time. They are like actors. It's quite like, it's amazing to see them outside the cameras because they behave the same way. It's like frightening. They're like a prototype, like robots. Yeah? So I think that it plays a major role. But at the same time, you cannot go against the waves. When the people doesn't have money to buy food, for every channel that you have talking good in favor of you, that goes to a little part of the society, because the society is poor, the people doesn't have to eat, so it has a limit, this kind of publicity.
Thank you for making a strong comment on how to translate politics in the everyday life, especially with the example when you said when you went to Barrios talking with the people why they decided to vote for Macri and why they changed their decision. And I think it's also important lessons for all of us social activists when dealing with field work. Yeah, so thank you for that, and thank all of you. I would like to thank you, and I would like to make an announcement for tomorrow. So probably you all know, but tomorrow you will have another opportunity to listen to Dario at the Good Economy conference, which starts at 9:45 in the morning, and Dario will participate in a workshop which is called Democracy at Workplace, together with Dario Zellini, and so you will have one more opportunity to with another. Your topic will be more related to the agro.
Yeah, the farmers' movement.
Movements and taking the land from the multinational corporation. So yeah, this is the opportunity to invite all of you, and I think we can continue our discussion at the bar.